everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today I'm going to show you how I make this cute top. It's really beautiful, and I will take you step by step on how you can achieve this top. I have uploaded the pattern paper on my website. I just took a picture of the pattern paper, and then you can look at how I make the pattern paper so that you can also make it for yourself. Remember, the measurement that you will find on that pattern paper is my measurement. Make sure you're using your own measurement when you're making your own pattern paper. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Make a comment down below if you have any questions. I have pinned my pattern paper on my fabric. So I will just go ahead and cut it out. Before you start cutting out your fabric, don't forget to add your seam allowance. So I always add my seam allowance at the neck, shoulder, armhole, and on the side. So remember to always do that. Like I always say, when I make my pattern paper, I don't add any seam allowance on the pattern paper. When I put the pattern paper on my fabric, cutting it out, then I will add seam allowance on my fabric all around. So go ahead and cut it out. I have cut my fabric, one piece for the back, one piece for the front, and I also cut bias bind. I'm going to use the same fabric to bind the neckline and the armhole. And I also cut the pieces right here. This is 7" for the back where I'm going to put my button loop. So the next thing that you have to do is to put the both shoulder seam of the top together. So what you're going to do, open your fabric. This is the front of my fabric. This is the front of my front top. So make sure both fronts are facing each other. You just put them together like this. Go ahead and pin the both shoulder seam in place. I have pinned the both shoulder seam. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So go ahead and stitch the both shoulder seam together. Once you have done that, overlock the raw edges or use zigzag to overlock the raw edges. I have stitched the shoulder seam together. This is how it finally looks right now. The next thing that you have to do, you're going to use your bias binding to bind the neckline. You can use already made bias binding, or you can also make your own bias binding. Place it at the front of your top like this. I will just put a few pins to show how you can do that. So what you're going to do, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all around. Once you have done that, then fold it inside like this, and then fold it again and give it a top stitch. I don't want any bias binding to show at the neckline. So go ahead and stitch that in place, and don't forget to cut a piece of fabric. So the width is 1 inch. Fold it into 2, you know, the mid part. Fold it again and then fold it again and fold it all over so that all the raw edges are inside the mid part. And then fold it again and just give it a nice press. This will be your button loop. Once you have done that, just take it to your sewing machine and give it a top stitch all the way down. So go ahead and bind the neckline of your top that you're making, and also stitch your button loop. I have top stitched the neckline. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do is to stitch your center back for the top that you're making. And I've also top stitched the button loop. Before you stitch it on the center back, what you're going to do, you take your button, this is my button, make sure you pass it through it, and then measure where the button is. Then you can place your button loop at the center back and top stitch first before you place your fabric on top of it and top stitch all over. So make sure that you do that so that you don't top stitch and then you realize that the button cannot pass through the holes. So you pin your button loop like this. The fold hem is inside while the raw edges will be facing the center back raw edges. So you just pin it like this. You will first take it to your sewing machine to secure the button loop first. Once you have done that, then you place your fabric on top of it like this. You just go ahead and pin it all around. So go ahead and pin that in place. So the measurement of my center back that I cut right here is 4.5 inches. You can make yours deeper, you can make it 5, 6, that totally depends on you. So go ahead and pin that in place. I have pinned it in place. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do before you take it to your sewing machine and top stitch it all around, you see these raw edges, just fold it over, then pin that in place. And you do the same thing on this side, fold it over and then pin it in place. So when you're stitching, just go ahead and stitch it all around and then fold it again, fold it inside and top stitch. Make sure that you fold all the raw edges inside. So go ahead and stitch that in place. I have shown many times how to stitch the center back of your top on my video. So go ahead and top stitch it all around. I have stitched the center back. This is how it is, and I just placed my button right there. You see that it's really beautiful. It's turning out to be super cute top. The next thing for you to do is to use bias binding to bind the armhole. So don't forget, if you have already made bias binding or you want to make your own bias binding, just go ahead and bind both armhole, and then we cannot put the both side seam together. I have stitched the both armhole together. This is how it looks. The next thing that you have to do, turn your top inside out. We are going to pin the both side seam together. Just go ahead and pin the both side seam of your top together. Put them together like this and just pin along. I have pinned the both side seam together. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Once you have done stitching, also zigzag the raw edges, or you can also take it to your overlocker and just overlock the raw edges. So go ahead and top stitch. I have stitched my both side seam of the top together. This is how it finally looks. The next thing for you to do is to hem your top. Just take it to your sewing machine, fold it and then fold it again and give it a top stitch all around. If you have overlocker, just go ahead and overlock the raw edges and then fold inside 1 centimeter and top stitch. So go ahead and hem your top together and your top is finally ready. This is the final look of my top. It's really beautiful. It's simple, very easy to make. Thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. If my video is being helpful, don't forget to thumbs up. Make a comment down below if you have any questions. And you all should have a wonderful day. Bye.